being an entrepreneur doesn't make you better than the next person, than the person next to you. I think a lot of times you'll get that perception, especially from closed-minded people that'll look at you from a perspective of, oh, he can't or she can't hang out with us, and she always seems to be busy. And it's not necessarily because they don't want to, but they have their priorities in that moment or in that season or in that those years are more so related to something that could possibly be bigger than them or something that now is really taking the attention as if it was a baby. A lot of people say this is their baby, whatever it is they're building, whether it's a business, businesses, or an empire, or whatever it is. But being an entrepreneur doesn't necessarily make you better than the other person. But I think people get that perception because you, if you stay focused on something for long enough and you learn the skills that you need to, in many cases, I would actually go as far to say, in most cases, if you stick to something long enough, get the right skill sets, get the right knowledge on what you need to do, and you know, stay consistent, working hard on the right things and not necessarily the wrong things, you find success. You find some level of success, and over time, you see that stuff. Unless it's something that you post that goes viral, which is many times what it is, many times what it is, but it's many times it's growth, right? And when people start to see you growing, whether it's physically or externally within your business or both, it's funny seeing how some people will act when that actually happens, you know. And I mean, it is what it is. But at the end of the day, it's about what you think personally. And what I've always how I've always moved mentally is that working jobs from when I started at the very first I think my first job, not even I think my first job was a soccer referee when I was like what, 13, 14, and then did McDonald's at 16 and went from McDonald's to at 17, 16. I think I was the same age. I can't even remember because McDonald's was something, man. But you work the fast food jobs, the Chick-fil-A. I did McDonald's first, Chick-fil-A. I worked at a steakhouse, bro. Over eight jobs, man. I actually have it on my LinkedIn. But and that's really just more for like the cybersecurity stuff. But for the real stuff that I really have, you know, that I do because I enjoy technology, but like my real passions and stuff that I really enjoy from a core. Those things I don't talk about that as much, but I still make it known. I've worked a ton of jobs, and even now being in a position where, you know, I'm making substantially more than I was back then when I was working those in, you know, high school. It's doing those kind of stuff really gave you the perspective and really gave you the understanding and the and those moments where you get humbled, and you still get humbled even now, many times, with whether it's languages or calisthenics or even business. But it's just crazy how you'll see some people, despite you knowing that and you acting and you actively taking those actions and, you know, showing people, and you're not doing it to show people. It's just the perspective that you've built and the mindset that you built, where you do stuff that's selfless. Sometimes you do stuff that's going out of your way to do stuff where, again, not, you don't act like you're better than somebody, but people will constantly have that preconceived thought, or even if you're not showing to be that way or move that way, that's kind of how they've built that perspective. And again, it's on them. That's not on you. That's not on you. That's a closed-minded perspective, the way I see it. And people have that. At the end of the day, you can only control what you can control. And that's really what it is. But I find it it's crazy. But yeah, man. I mean, this was really a thought that I had, not fleshed out, not anything. This channel is just me talking and splitting out my thoughts, whatever I'm saying, that kind of stuff. But yeah, man. I mean, you don't become better than the next person just because you're an entrepreneur. Everybody has different goals. Everybody has different aspirations. Being a regular person, living a standard way of living, is not wrong. Some people want that. Some people want to do that. Others want to go for something. They want to go for whatever they envision. Some people are scared to do that, but then they say they want to do it, but they're scared. That's different. I see a problem with that, and that's a different conversation. And that's where the motivation comes in. That's where the content that you consume and the actions you take and the people that are encouraging you to do what you need to do. That's where they come in. But you also have people that'll encourage you and develop that toxic way of saying, "Hey, if you're not waking up at 4 a.m., you're a failure, bro. If you're doing one vice or something, that basically automatically means you're gonna fail." When we've seen hundreds of thousands of other people, hundreds of thousands is huge, but over the years, we've seen a huge number of people who have garnered success regardless because they were focused, They knew what they wanted. And even if they struggled here and there, because at the end of the day, we're human, they still knew what the hell they wanted and they still went after it and they still got it. Because at the end of the day, if you focus, you get what you focus on in many cases. In many cases, you get what you focus on, or you get in that vicinity or somewhere around that. And there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with having that vision and getting what you want to. But in the same breath, there's also nothing wrong with just wanting a standard way of life, which is just, the societal, norm is the family and kids, right? The wife or the husband and the dog and all of that, right? And the kids. There's nothing wrong with that, bro. As a matter of fact, I would want that too. But as where I am right now, we want an empire around that first. We want to be stable. We want for stable, even the word stable, that means different that means different things for different people. But for me, I know what that means for me, and that's my main priority right now. What I'm building is what I would eventually want to be bigger than me. This is my baby. I'm building something bigger than me. And at some point, I would want it to go beyond just, inspiring people, but also going beyond that, man. Have the shows, have the comics that we already start. A lot of these things we've already moved into action. A lot of these things we've already inspired or motivated people, but you want it to get to the point where it's bigger than you. And at that point, things are on autopilot where we have a team, we've helped a lot of people, and we've given a lot of people opportunities. And that's really what it's about at the end of the day. Building something that is giving value to people around you. Well, that's the way I'm looking at it. And in order to do that, you have to you have to put in a shit ton of work. You have to understand what it is that you want to do, and you have to have a plan on how that's going to happen. And figuring out those things requires you to put in a shit ton of work and focus in how you want to do that. And a lot of times you're going to have to give yourself space for failure, so many different things. So again, there's no rules on how you live life. Everybody is raised differently. Some people are raised similar, but everybody's raised differently and are given, different rules on how you should, live your life. But then you get to a point where you're saying, there really aren't rules to this. Yeah, you have the baseline, you don't want to kill or hurt people and that kind of stuff. And again, even that, some people have their thoughts on that, but we're going off of my morals here, what we're talking about. And that's what it is, man. As you grow up, you experience what you've been told, you experience your own experiences, and you develop your own outlook on life and everything. You figure out what you want to do. You figure out what's important and what becomes a priority in these different stages of your life, and you move on. You move towards that. But some people, they just don't understand, right? They look at it from a way of, if you're not doing it, if you're not living life this way specifically, you're cooked, you're screwed, you're done. Don't talk to me. You're dead to me, or not even to go to that extent, but they look at you as lesser. When at the end of the day, we've walked different ways of life. We've had different experiences. So who are you to tell me how to do something when you haven't lived or experienced what I've experienced, and I haven't experienced what you've experienced? But at least I'm open to hearing what you have to say and possibly considering doing it your way, or possibly taking some aspects of what you're doing and work it into how I do my stuff. But then from your end, you're saying, no, this is the only right way to do it. And it's almost like you're closed off to everything else. And at the end of the day, those type of people, you can't help them. They are stuck in their ways. There are some people where there's hope, and maybe, they're willing to actually look at things from a different perspective or listen. But some people you just can't help. Some people you just can't help, bro. That's really, when you get past that and when you understand that, life becomes, as hard as life is, that's another, piece of annoying thought or stressor or whatever you want to call it, that's just removed from your head. Because some people you just can't help. Some people, they have their way of thinking, and that's just what it's going to be. Right? Because it's one thing to listen to advice. It's one thing to listen to advice just to listen out of respect or whatever, or not even that. It's one thing to talk to people, especially if you're in a position now where many people don't get to experience, or there are many people that would love to be in that position. And it's one thing to be appreciative of that, and let people give their thoughts, and then make that decision from there if you want to take that advice or have a further conversation, or say, I got to go and, get stuff done or whatever. It's one thing to do that. And it's another thing to just be closed off completely, or just have it be all about you. Just have it be everything centered around you. And those are two different ways. Those are two different ways you can look at it, man. But yeah, at the end of the day, like I said, some people you just can't help. People are going to have their perspective of you. At the end of the day, I think what's most important is that you're being authentic to who you want to be, who you envision, and you've made sure that you have had those moments where you have opened yourself to have different experiences and to really learn more about yourself. It's not just about experiencing stuff, but learning about what you like and what you don't like, and then developing your ideas and opinions from there. But still being open to other stuff, right? Still being open to at least listen and say, hey, man, look, I get it. I don't mess with that. I'm going to keep my distance from you because you're completely way off from what I believe in. But, you have your thoughts or whatever. And, you keep your distance because that's not the type of people you want to be around. Or there are people that completely disagree with each other and they still rock with each other. But there's so many different ways you can have that interaction, as opposed to just writing someone off as opposed to just writing someone off as something and you barely have a percentage of of how they are and how they move and all that kind of stuff. You're just basing it off of some sort of just one thing, basically, you know. And like I said, this is a unfleshed out thought. I'm just really yapping here, bro. But yeah, overall, I find it silly that some people are like how they are. I find it silly, but at the end of the day, that's how they are, man. At the end of the day, that's how they are. You can't help those people. It's not. I mean, by definition, that's what being closed minded is. But I mean, at the end of the day, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do, man? That's on them for them to figure it out themselves. And at the end of the day, some people are just lost, and it takes others longer than it takes some people longer than others to figure that stuff out. Some people, they don't figure it out at all, or they don't want to. And hey, that's on them, bro. You can only do what you can. Control what you can, and everything else. I said it before. I've said it probably several times in some of these videos. But you control what you can. The way I approach life is you control what you can, and what is outside of your control, you adapt to however you can and leave the rest up to the one up above. There are no rules, man. There are no rules. And the sooner you figure that out, the sooner you can start moving in a way that aligns with how you want life to move, how you want life to move at your own pace, by your own standards. The more you start to move like a person who is in control of what they can control and their life,